Welcome back, folks. In this video, we're going to be creating IAM users and groups. IAM, which is Identity and Access Management, is a web service that helps you securely control access to your AWS resources. With IAM, you can centrally manage permissions that control which AWS resources users can access in your account. You can also use IAM to to control who's signed in and who has permission to control to use resources. It's a free service and it's highly recommended that after you create your root account, you create an IAM user where you can access your resources from in that in so that hackers and bots on the internet cannot have access to your resources. And with your root account, it is also highly recommended that you use um, the two factor authentication, or which is also called a multi-factor authentication. I'm going to make a separate video to talk about that. So let's get started. So we're back at the home page of the root account we created, and this is my username right here, the techie, and this is my account ID. And it's very important that you have this account ID written somewhere because you are going to need it when signing in as a user. So because I recently visited these services, they are going to be under the recently visited widget. But you can just type IAM right here and comes up in the drop down. So we are going to be creating two users and two groups. And with this, we fully understand how AM works. So let's click on the user groups and form a user and form two groups. We're going to call the first group admin group or just admin. And in this group, we're going to give full administrator access to this group. And just click on the the policies and the permissions are right here. You can type it. If it doesn't show up, administrator access, and it comes up. So since we already have it showing up here, click it and create group. And we are going to call the next group prod or production. Let's just cut it short to prod. And in prod, we're going to grant only EC2 access. So this group, they're only going to have access to create EC2 instances and no other service like the buckets, S3 buckets, they cannot create any other, use any other resources. It is important to note that if you create a new account or a new user, if you do not give them any permission, by default, they cannot access any of the resources. So let's create two users. You can see we already have the two groups, the user groups and the permissions are defined right here. And let's create the users and put them in these groups. The first user we are going to create, you click on create user. Let's call this user Sarah, and we're going to provide user access to the AWS console. Click on I want to create a user, and you're going to have the options. Do you want the auto-generated password or a custom password? We're going to take the custom password option and make sure you meet the password creation policy that AWS provides. And you you're going to be asked if you want users to create a new password at first signing. We're going to untick this box right here and next. And we get to choose which group our user should be placed under. And we can put we put Sarah in the admin group. So Sarah is going to automatically have full access when we create user. Sarah's credentials, including the sign-in, direct sign-in URL, is right here, the username and the password. So you can download this as a CSV file and email it to your user. So let's return to the user list, and you can see right here that Sarah has been created as one user. And if you click on Sarah, you can see that you can see what permissions Sarah has. Sarah has administrative access, and you can see that Sarah is in the admin group. You can see what day it was created, and you can see the Amazon resource number, the ARN for Sarah. And let's go ahead and create the second user. We're going to call this user, let's call this the user David. So provide user access to David and auto-generate a password as well. And untick this box, next. And this time we're going to put David in the production team. And remember, the production team has limited access, so whatever access the group has, David inherits. You can. Also, at this point, I need to also let you know that regardless of the group you're in, you can get a different permission assigned directly to the user. So you can you can once again download this CSV file, which can be emailed to David. And let's return to user list, and you can see the two users we have, David and Sarah. And so right now, let us try signing into the the different accounts and the user accounts and see and prove what access they have. So you remember the ID is important. We copy the ID and then make sure it's copied correctly and we sign out. So it's going to kick us back to the home page and the sign out page. And when we log back in, instead of going in as a root user, now we go in as an IAM user. And the 12-digit ID we just typed in, we place it here, and we are going to go in as Sarah and type in our password. And here we are. So since Sarah has full administrator access, Sarah can use any of the resources. Sarah can create an EC2 instance. Sarah can create a bucket. Let's just try creating an EC2 instance, which is a virtual machine. So let's launch an instance. Let's call this instance Sarah instance. And we're going to take the Amazon Linux and we are going to use the T2 micro just for test purpose. And let's create a new key pair and let's call it Sarah key pair. We are going to take the PAM since we're not using PuTTY. I'm going to make a video where I explain the access keys and all, but for now, we are focused on creating an IAM user. This is just trying to see if the services, the permission allows Sarah to create key pair, which is downloaded in our local machine, and we create a security group allow SSH, and we launch an instance. So you can see that it is accessible for Sarah. Sarah has been able to create an instance. If you go to instances, you see Sarah's instance is created. Great. So let's log back out of this account and try and sign in as David. So we still have a 12-digit number, and the IAM user this time is going to be David, and the password, David is logged in right here. And let's try creating you can already see access denied, access denied. So shows already that he has limited access. Let's try creating an EC2 instance for David. Actually, David will be able to create an EC2 instance, but David will not be able to do any other access. So let's try creating an S3 bucket for David. S3, create a bucket. Let's create this bucket in US East to Ohio region, and let's call this bucket the David test bucket. You have to type a unique name. I'm going to show you how to create buckets and what S3 buckets are about in a separate video. And let's create a bucket. Fail to create bucket because the create bucket permission is required. So if you need, as an administrator, if you want David to be able to create a bucket, you have to give David access, or to give David direct access as a user, or add David to a group where the group has access to create a bucket. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.